At some point in our lives as gamers, we have all heard from either our parents or grandparents to put down the video games and go read a book. Video games are rotting your brain, or that video games are for kids and it's time for you to grow up. But what they don't know is that there are thousands upon thousands of games out there, many of which have captivating stories, critical thinking, and can touch you in ways that a book simply cannot. As the years go by, the video game industry has exploded and some games might get lost in time. The goal of this series is to highlight these classic video games that have created core memories for me and that I would like to share with my future kids. A quick side note, I will be making this series spoiler free, so you won't have to worry. With that out of the way, let's begin with our first game.
夜空をかける流れ星を今見つけられたら何を祈るだろう旅立つ君と交わした約束心の中にいつもある
Tales of Symphonia. The first time that I played this game was back around 2005-2006 for the Nintendo GameCube. I was about 11 years old and I received it as a gift from my cousin. When he handed it to me, I had no idea what this game was, and I never even heard of the series before. But as an 11-year-old kid, a new video game was always exciting. You also have to understand, back then the internet was not really mainstreamed yet, and I was still a kid. So the main way you discovered new games was from your school friends or your family. At the time, I was really getting into JRPGs, and by the box art, I imagined it was one of these games. During this era of JRPGs, the majority of them were turn-based combat, and as much as I love a good turn-based combat game, I would always wish for something that's more action-oriented. When I opened up the game case, to the left there was a beefy booklet, and to the right I saw 2 discs. As soon as I saw this, I knew I was in it for the long haul. Tales of Symphonia is the 5th entry in the series, and many argue that this is the best one to date. JRPGs are known for having long, convoluted stories, and Tales of Symphonia is a long game, but the story is relatively easy to follow. I think this is one of the main reasons why I was able to connect with this game so much as a kid. I was able to understand everything that was going on at all times. Just to give you a quick summary of the plot, it takes place in a declining world called Sylveron. There is what is called the Chosen, or the Chosen of Mana, and this individual is held in high regards because they're destined to complete what is called the Journey of Regeneration. It is a pilgrimage in which the Chosen goes on to rejuvenate the world. Sylveron is declining because for many years the past Chosens have failed on their pilgrimage. The story begins with Lloyd Irving, a 17-year-old country boy sleeping in class, Gina Sage, who is best friends with Lloyd, and Colette Brunel, the Chosen of Mana. Throughout the journey, they face many hardships, surprises, and companions. This may sound like a very generic story, and to be honest, it is, but the way that it's told, the amount of foreshadowing, and the character interactions make this game stand out. It's even more appreciated playing it for a second time. Tales of Symphonia is an open world game, but it's not truly open world. It's very similar to like Final Fantasy VII, where you look giant on the world map and you journey from one location to the next. This is kind of outdated, but at the time this is what open world was. Like I said earlier, this game is relatively easy to follow. What makes it even better is that the story has many relatable real world points, which is why this game is such a classic. It tackles topics like slavery, religion, racism, and sacrifice. Each character is so unique and feels very much alive. It's to the point where I genuinely love each one. JRPGs at the time were primarily turn-based, and up until I played Tales of Symphonia, I had only played turn-based JRPGs. Combat in this game uses a real-time battle system, which I had an absolute blast with because it made the game so much more engaging. They called this the multi-line linear motion battle system, and this is the first time in the series that they used a 3D battlefield. So what does this really mean? Well, essentially you control one character that can move either left or right. You either move towards or away from your enemies. You could then switch between which enemies you want to target, and then you'll move linearly towards or away that enemy. It is a little outdated considering the latest games in the Tales of series, because now you could roam freely within the battlefield rather than just two directions. But at the time, this was so cool. You have a guard button, a basic attack button, as well as a button for arts that you gradually unlock. My personal favorite unlockable art were the Beast variations, specifically Beast Sword Ring. There are also unison attacks which trigger an event where each of your active party members attack the enemy without retaliation. If a certain combination of arts are used, a compound special attack will be triggered for extra damage. Lastly, there are Mystic arts, which are the strongest form of arts, but can only be triggered in specific situations. So why do I love this game so much? Well, remember, at the time I was just an 11-year-old kid, and this is the beginning stages of when you really start to develop a personality as well as being very impressionable. And at this age, when you like something, you really like something. Many of the themes can be applied to what goes on in today's world, which adds another layer of feeling a connection to this game and relevancy. At the time, I haven't played many games with a story similar to this, so the predictable plot was not so predictable for me, which is why it's so nostalgic. My favorite character in this game is easily Lloyd. He's an idealist that doesn't necessarily think before he acts, but as the journey goes on, you see him mature. His weapons are twin blades, which I find are the coolest weapons to wield. Generally in JRPGs, there's always a character or two that you don't necessarily care for or connect with, but in Tales of Symphonia, I genuinely love each and every character. I know I may get some hate for this, but I would love a remake of Tales of Symphonia, something like to the scale of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Give us updated graphics, a new battle system, and shift the camera behind the characters to have a more immersive experience, rather than having a top-down view. As promised, I kept this spoiler-free, but if you enjoy this kind of content, let me know in the comments below. I might do a full in-depth spoiler appreciation video for Tales of Symphonia. Thank you so much for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.